So I want to start by asking you a question. And I mean, really think about this. What can you honestly claim is absolutely real right now?
Right.
Like, not what you remember happening yesterday, not what you assume is going to happen tomorrow, but what is given to you directly in this exact second.
Which is a deeply unsettling question when you actually sit with it for a minute.
Oh, it's terrifying because, we build our entire lives on these massive assumptions. You just assume the floor is going to hold your weight when you
Yeah.
stand up. You assume the sky is still out there, even if you're stuck in some windowless room. But for today's deep dive, we are basically taking all of those comforts and just throwing them out the window.
We really are. We're looking at a stack of notes today that outline a complete ontology of process.
Right. And real quick, before we get too deep into the weeds, I want to intercept that word, ontology, because
Okay.
if you haven't taken a philosophy class in like 10 years, that can sound pretty dense.
Fair enough, yeah.
We're basically just talking about the study of what is undeniably real, right? Versus what's just, a projection or a model.
Exactly. The mission here is to attempt to build a logical system of reality from absolute ground zero.
Ground zero, meaning no assumptions whatsoever.
None. And we're going to do it without relying on any unprovable magic or religious dogma or some kind of pseudo-esoteric fog.
Which is refreshing, honestly.
Right. We're looking strictly at what is mathematically and logically observable. It's a very precise, very surgical way of deconstructing existence.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the foundational premise that these sources give us is, it's wild.
It's a lot to take in at first.
Yeah, because the absolute baseline of reality, like the only single thing we can actually prove, is just experience right now.
Yes.
And the text argues that literally everything else, like the physical world, our bodies, the passing of time, all of it, is actually a model built inside that experience.
Yeah, is at the core of it, yes.
Oh, wait, I have to push back on this right out of the gate, because I'm holding a coffee mug right now. It's heavy, it's hot, it is physically sitting in my hand. Are you really telling me that my physical body and the ceramic mug aren't real? Or is this just some Matrix thing? Am I wearing a VR headset where the only thing I know for a fact is that the screen is on and my so-called hands are just like software rendered on that screen?
What's fascinating here is that the VR analogy is exactly where most people go. It's how we try to visualize it.
Right.
But it actually falls a bit short because a VR headset implies that there is a real you sitting in a real living room somewhere outside the headset.
Oh, yeah, I guess it does.
So let's look at the actual biological mechanism instead. Think about your brain.
Okay.
It is a 3-pound lump of tissue locked inside a pitch-black, silent vault, your skull.
Very silent, very dark.
Exactly. It has never seen light. It has never literally touched a coffee mug. All it ever receives are electrical impulses traveling up your nervous system.
So just guessing?
It's constructing a model. The heat of the mug, the weight of it, the visual image of the ceramic, all of that is an experience being actively rendered by your neural circuitry.
Wow. Okay, so it's a real-time rendering.
Yes. The mug is a model your mind constructs to organize those electrical impulses. So if we are being strictly logical here...
I can't actually prove the mug exists.
Exactly. You can only prove the experience of the mug exists. Which brings us to a very strict formulation from our sources today.
Lay it on me.
Only current experience is available, and there is no way to verify whether that is all there is.
Man, that is a heavy sentence. Let me repeat that. Only current experience is available, and there is no way to verify whether that is all there is.
It's dense, but it's precise.
It completely traps you in the present tense. Like there's no escape from right now.
It does trap you, yeah.
Guys?
But it traps you in a way that actually provides absolute clarity.
How so?
Well, the ontology breaks this down into 3 very specific levels. The first level is the observable.
Meaning what we can see.
Basically, it means experience is present. That's undeniable. You are experiencing something right now in this exact second.
Okay. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Right. Then there is the second level, which is the boundary.
The boundary of the experience.
Exactly. Experience can cease. We observe that consciousness alters, right? We sleep, we faint, life ends. There's a clear limit to the rendering.
Okay, so the TV can turn off.
Yes. And that brings us to the third level, the inaccessible.
Meaning, whatever is outside the dark vault of the skull. Or outside the rendering.
Precisely. Whether there is a massive physical universe out there or whether there is absolutely nothing at all remains permanently inaccessible to direct proof.
Because, wait, I think I get this. Because you can't step outside of experience to check if anything exists outside of experience.
Yes, you nailed it. Because the exact moment you try to check,
I'm experiencing the checking.
exactly, you're still inside the rendering.
Oh, man. You really can't take the VR headset off. Because the headset is the only tool you actually have.
Right. So the shortest, most precise version of our baseline reality is just this. There is a process of experience. It appears as life. And literally everything else is a hypothesis.
Everything else is a hypothesis. Okay, but I see a massive trap there.
Let's hear it.
If everything is a model, the physical world, the passing of time, the brain itself rendering inside this continuous process of experience, then what exactly is the I? The self. Yeah. Who is having the experience? Because usually, we think of the self as this glowing, permanent soul orb hovering somewhere behind our eyes.
The permanent essence.
Right, our essence.
Yeah.
But if the world is a model, then the self has to be a model too. And I genuinely struggle with that.
Why is that?
Because it feels so real. Like if I lose my job or if I lose someone I deeply love, that grief feels like an essence. It hurts my core.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like some temporary localized model. It feels like me.
And what's fascinating here is how our biology tricks us into feeling that permanence.
Tricks us.
Well, evolutionarily speaking, your brain needed you to protect your physical form. So it gave you a highly convincing, unified sense of I.
Okay. So it wrapped it all up in a neat package.
Exactly. It fused your memories, your emotional pain, your bodily sensations into one permanent feeling identity. But this framework asks you to look closer.
Look closer at the grief.
Yes, the grief you feel is intensely real as an experience, but the I that is observing the grief is not the grief itself. The sources state this beautifully. The self is not an essence, but a position inside the process.
A position, like a coordinate.
Exactly like a coordinate.
Wait, I was thinking of it like the little blue dot on a GPS app on your phone.
That's a great analogy.
Right, because the blue dot isn't the phone, it isn't the map, and it certainly isn't the satellite up in space.
No, it's none of those.
It's just a location marker inside the system, so the system can, orient itself.
The GPS dot captures the geometry of it perfectly, yes. The human being is simply a form. Right. Your mind, your emotions, your grief, your biological urges, they are not your essence. They are just subsystems.
Subsystems. I mean, I get the logic, but calling my grief or my whole personality a subsystem sounds so cold.
It does sound a bit mechanical at first.
Yeah. It sounds like we're stripping away our humanity.
It sounds cold until you realize how incredibly compassionate it actually is.
Compassionate? How?
Think about the immense pressure of believing your anger, your trauma, or your anxiety is your core essence.
Oh, wow.
If it is your essence, you are trapped by it forever. You are your trauma.
I see what you mean. That's a heavy burden.
But if your mind and body are just subsystems that belong to a process, it means they can be governed.
Because they aren't me, they're just tools I'm using.
Exactly. You are not a victim to your mind. Your mind is simply an engine that you are currently operating from your position inside the process.
Okay, but if my mind is just an engine, why does it feel like it's driving itself most of the time?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because if I'm just a position in the process, how do I actually govern these subsystems? Like yesterday, I was stuck in terrible traffic.
Oh, the ultimate test.
Truly. My heart rate spiked. I got absolutely furious at the cars around me, and it physically exhausted me.
Yeah, your subsystems were firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. And I certainly didn't feel like I was governing anything. I felt like the car was driving me.
And that is because you were operating in the first of two distinct modes described in our sources.
Which is?
Automatism.
Automatism, meaning
Yeah.
automatic.
Right. In the mode of automatism, your actions and emotions simply unfold from previous imprints.
Imprints like habits?
Habits, your evolutionary biology, your past trauma, your routine of getting mad at traffic, they all just cascade forward into immediate action.
So there's no filter.
None. You aren't actually choosing to be angry. The choice is not distinguished from the reaction. The engine revs, and the wheels immediately spin.
I'm just a passenger.
You are just a passenger. Input equals output.
Traffic is bad. I get mad. But wait, isn't freedom just doing whatever I want?
What do you mean?
Like if I feel the urge to yell in my car and I just let loose and do it, isn't that me expressing my freedom?
This raises an important question, and honestly, it's the exact trap modern culture falls into constantly.
Okay. Oh, so?
Because doing whatever your impulses dictate is not freedom. That is peak automatism.
Oh, man. So I'm just a slave to the impulse.
Exactly. You are blindly obeying your biological imprints.
Right.
The text is incredibly sharp on this point. It says, freedom is not choice itself, but access to choice.
Freedom is not choice itself, but access to choice.
Yes.
Okay, so how do I get access? How do I actually transition out of this automatism mode?
By moving into the second mode, authorship.
Authorship. Okay, I like the sound of that. How does it work?
To understand the mechanism, think of it like the clutch pedal in a manual transmission car.
Oh, I drive a stick shift. Perfect.
Great. So in automatism, the engine is permanently fused to the wheels. They move together.
Right.
But authorship is the literal act of pressing the clutch.
Okay.
You disconnect the engine, which is your emotional impulse, from the wheels, which is your action.
So the engine is still screaming, like I'm still feeling the anger about the traffic.
Yes. The anger subsystem is still firing completely.
But because I press the clutch, the car isn't lurching forward. I'm not yelling.
Exactly. You have created a micro moment of distinction.
Distinction.
Right. You shift your attention from the contents of your experience, the bad traffic, to the fact of your experience. You notice, oh, my subsystem is currently generating anger.
And just by noticing it, I'm pressing the clutch.
Yes. And in that split-second pause, you have access to a choice.
Yeah.
You can choose to engage the gear of anger, or you can choose a completely different gear entirely.
Wow.
The access to the clutch pedal is the actual freedom.
That is a total paradigm shift. Like freedom isn't the action at all. It's the phenomenological space before the action.
Beautifully put.
It's interrupting the brain's default mode network. But okay, here is where it gets really interesting and honestly a little terrifying.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Let's say I'm master the clutch pedal, right? I step back, I have access to choice. What do I actually choose to do with my life?
The big question.
Yeah, because we started this deep dive by stripping away all the external assumptions. No grand universe, no religious destiny, no objective reality.
Ground zero.
Right. So if there is no universal instruction manual left, what is the point of choosing anything?
You are hitting on the psychological terror of true agency.
It is terrifying.
It is. Because when you strip away all the unprovable hypotheses and all those external authorities, you are left with a profound void.
Void. Yeah, that sounds about right.
There is no given meaning to existence. There is no predetermined destiny you're supposed to fulfill.
But that just sounds like pure nihilism. It sounds like a reason to just, lay down on the floor and never get up.
It's only nihilism if you are desperately waiting for someone else to hand you a script.
Ugh.
Ouch, but fair.
If you truly understand the ontology we're building here, this void is actually the ultimate canvas.
Because it's empty.
Because there is no universal meaning. Any meaning you experience is local, temporary, and entirely constructed by you.
So I get to make it up.
Exactly. The source material phrases it this way. Life is the arbitrary living of a chosen form.
Life is the arbitrary living of a chosen form.
Yes.
So it's not an open-world sandbox video game where someone programmed quests for me to find.
No programmer.
It's more like being handed a completely blank canvas and some paint. There is no correct painting to make.
Right.
The universe literally doesn't care if I paint a landscape or a portrait. I just have to pick a form, decide to actually care about it, and start painting.
Exactly. And because the painting is arbitrary, it is never final.
I can paint over it.
You can always change it. You engage with the world. You build a career. You fall in love. You create art, all with absolute burning intensity.
But knowing it's just a frame. Yes. You do it knowing that the framework you have chosen is arbitrary. You aren't doing it because the cosmos demanded it. You are doing it because you consciously chose that frame.
That's incredibly empowering, actually.
It is, and this concept actually has a name in the text. It's called controlled folly.
Controlled folly! Oh, I like that.
It's a great term.
Because you know it's folly. It's just a localized game you're playing inside your own rendering, but it is controlled. You are the author.
Yes. You hold the brush. And I should probably mention that this specific architecture we're talking about,
Which part?
embracing a process without a fixed ego, understanding the self as a position, and consciously choosing arbitrary forms of life, all of this belongs to a collection of analyses known as post-ego.
Post-ego. Got it.
It's basically an operational manual for reality once you drop the illusion of the permanent self.
Okay, so in this post-ego framework, I am the author, I'm pressing the clutch, I'm choosing my gear, and I'm painting my arbitrary canvas.
Yes.
But canvases eventually run out of space.
They do.
Engines eventually break down. Which brings us to the hardest boundary of all.
Death.
Yeah. If life is just a chosen role we play inside this continuous rendering of experience, what actually happens when the boundaries hit? What happens with death?
Logically, based strictly on the ground zero we established at the beginning. Death is simply the cessation of the current experience.
The electrical impulses stop.
Yes.
The rendering just goes dark.
Exactly. And the crucial point here is what happens after.
Right, the afterlife question.
The text states very plainly, after the cessation of experience, there is no position from which anything can be asserted.
Oh, because the I, that little blue dot, was just a position inside the rendering.
Exactly.
So if the rendering stops, the coordinate map is just gone. There is literally no I left to verify anything.
Right. You cannot make a factual claim about what happens after experience ends because the tool required to make a claim, which is experience itself, is gone.
Wow. That is foolproof logic.
It is. Therefore, any statement about the beyond, whether a priest tells you there is a glorious afterlife or an atheist tells you there is absolutely nothing but blackness,
They're both just guessing.
both of those are equally unverifiable hypotheses. They have zero ontological status.
Meaning they weren't real.
They do not describe objective reality.
But if that is true, and these hypotheses have absolutely zero factual status, why have human beings spent the last 10,000 years inventing them?
It's a fair question.
Like, if we can't ever prove what happens after, why are we so universally obsessed with the beyond?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look at evolutionary biology again.
Okay, back to the 3-pound brain.
Right. The human brain, as a predictive subsystem, absolutely hates uncertainty.
Yeah, it wants to know what's next.
Because uncertainty historically meant death. If you couldn't predict where the tiger was hiding, you died.
Fair point.
So your brain is hardwired to close open loops. And the concept of death, the permanent cessation of experience, is the ultimate open loop.
The biggest mystery.
It causes immense psychological distress. So the mind invents models, heaven, hell, reincarnation, or even cold scientific oblivion, just to close the loop and resolve the tension.
So it's a coping mechanism.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But here's the really profound insight from our sources. Hypotheses do not matter as descriptions of reality, but they matter as tools for configuring behavior.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the mechanics of that.
Go for it.
Hypotheses do not matter as descriptions of reality, but they matter as tools for configuring behavior.
Yes.
So, it literally doesn't matter if reincarnation is a factual reality. What matters is how believing in reincarnation changes what I do before breakfast today.
Precisely. They are instruments used inside the current process.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
When the text says these afterlife hypotheses have no factual status, it isn't trying to be cold or dismissive of religion. Not at all.
It's just looking at the function.
Exactly. It's actually forcing you to look at the utility of your beliefs. Think about it. If you believe this life is just a miserable waiting room for an eternal paradise,
My behavior changes.
radically, your risk appetite, your priorities, your decision horizons today are going to be very passive.
Because I'm just waiting for the real reward later. I'll tolerate suffering because I think the payoff is coming.
Yes. But if you believe this is the only run, and there are absolutely no guarantees of a replay.
My urgency skyrockets.
Exactly.
I might finally quit that job I hate tomorrow. I might finally paint that canvas we talked about.
The belief isn't a truth. It acts as a mechanical tool that physically configures your actions right now.
That is brilliant.
The real question this ontology asks isn't, what is objectively true beyond this life?
Because that's unanswerable.
Right. That question is completely irrelevant. The real question is, which working frame is being chosen inside the current process, and what physical actions does that frame produce?
So what does this all mean? If we, zoom out and look at this entire slightly terrifying, ultimately liberating system we've just built.
Let's recap the final formula.
Let's hear it.
There is only the occurring process of experience. Everything you know arises as a model within it.
The mug, the traffic, everything.
Right. Within that process, the possibility of distinction appears. The space to press the clutch pedal, which gives you access to choice.
Authorship.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no given meaning, no pre-written destiny, and there is absolutely no possibility of stepping outside the process to verify anything beyond it.
When we started this deep dive, we promised to strip away assumptions.
We certainly did.
And we really did. I mean, we stripped away the permanence of the physical body, the illusion of the glowing eternal soul, the idea of a universal destiny, and even the factual truth of the afterlife.
It's a thorough teardown.
And I know for a lot of you listening, that might feel like a massive loss. It's disorienting. But think about the crushing, paralyzing weight it actually removes from your shoulders. You don't have to stress about finding your one true destiny because there isn't one.
Right.
You just get to choose your form. You don't have to be a victim to your anger or your trauma because your mind is just an engine you can govern by pressing the clutch.
That's the real takeaway.
It hands you the ultimate pragmatic tool set. The freedom to consciously choose your frame, embrace controlled folly, and build your own meaning.
And that leads to a rather sharp point of reflection regarding the tools you are currently using.
Oh, I like where this is going.
If all your deeply held beliefs about the future or the beyond are essentially just mechanical instruments designed to shape your behavior right now, look closely at the behavior they're actually producing.
Yes.
Are you using the right tools for the life you actually want to build today?
That is the ultimate question. And think about this, just to take it one step further. If every human on Earth suddenly woke up tomorrow and adopted this exact framework.
Oh, wow.
Right, like if we all suddenly realized our rigid beliefs were just behavioral tools and that our deepest conflicts were really just clashing models of controlled folly rendered inside our own skulls, what would happen to society?
That's a profound thought.
Would we finally stop fighting wars over unprovable hypotheses and actually build a paradise of conscious authors? Or would all our shared institutions, which completely rely on us believing the illusions are real, just collapse overnight?
A fascinating dilemma.
It's a question worth finding your own distinction for. So take that split-second pause, access the choice.